Today we are looking at a case from the first part of the 20th century. So sit back as we go to England. Annie Bella Wright was born on the 14th of July 1897 in the village of Somerby in the English county of Leicestershire. She was the eldest of 7 children, and when she was young, her parents moved 14 miles to the village of Stoughton, which is closer to the city of Leicester. She was always known by her second name Bella. Her father worked as a farm labourer. He was a hard-working gentleman, and the family lived happily together in a small cottage. Bella went to the local school, which provided her with a basic education. However, like most children, she did not stay on beyond the compulsory attendance age of 12. Instead, she found work in domestic service. She later moved on to work at the Bates & Co rubber factory in the St Mary's Mill area of Leicester. The city was about 5 miles from her house in Stoughton, and she usually travelled there on her bicycle. Bella was a very pleasant young lady, always friendly and willing to help. She was attractive, and when she was 21 years old, became engaged to a gentleman named Archie Ward, who was a stoker in the Royal Navy. It was believed that another young gentleman was interested in her, and she told her mother that an army officer had tried to make her acquaintance. However, she did not tell her the name of this mysterious gentleman. On Saturday the 5th of July 1919, Bella spent some of the day writing letters before going to see her uncle, George Measures, who lived in a cottage in the village of Galtby. She travelled there on her bicycle. On her way, she bumped into the postmistress, a lady named Mrs. Powers. She gave her the letters that she had been planning to post before cycling off towards her uncle's cottage. She was quite excited, as her cousin was going to be there with her husband and 2 young children. Bella had not seen her for some time. When Bella arrived, she was not alone, as she had cycled some of the way in the company of a gentleman. He was riding a green bicycle with a strange brake on the back wheel. When Bella left her uncle's cottage, Mr. Measures asked his niece who the man was waiting by the fence. She replied, "Oh, him. I don't really know him at all." She told her uncle that the front wheel of her bicycle had become loose, and when she stopped to see what was wrong, the gentleman came towards her and asked if she needed assistance. He did not have a spanner, so could not tighten the wheel, but cycled with her to make sure she arrived safely. She said that he had been riding alongside her for a few miles, but wasn't bothering her at all. He was just chatting about the weather. She added that he behaved like a perfect stranger. The man was in his mid to late 30s, with dark hair, and riding a distinctive green bicycle. Mr. Measures told Bella that he did not like the look of him. Before she left, she told her uncle that she may try to give him the slip. As Bella walked back towards her bicycle, the gentleman smiled and said, "Bella, you have been gone a long time. I thought that you had gone the other way." Mr. Measures and his son-in-law went back inside the cottage, and his niece and the gentleman rode off. It was now about 8:50 in the evening, and Bella was anxious to get home before dark. Around 30 minutes later, a farmer named Joseph Cowell was herding his cows on the Gartrey Road when he saw a young lady lying next to her bicycle. He noticed that her face was covered in blood and that she had deep gorge marks visible on her cheeks and jaw. As he looked closer, he realised that the young lady was dead. Believing that she must have fallen from her bicycle or been knocked off by a car, he made his way to the police station to inform the local constable. Constable Alfred Hall telephoned a doctor, and soon the 3 men were at the scene. A doctor, named Dr. Williams, confirmed that the young lady was deceased. He then instructed the body be placed in Mr. Cowell's cart and taken to a nearby unused chapel. Police Constable Hall inspected the scene. He could not see any footprints, but he did find smears of blood on the top bar of the field gate. By now it was quite dark, and with only candles for light, a full examination of the scene and the body was not possible. But the doctor said that he believed that the young lady had died as a result of falling from her bicycle. Thinking that there may be more to the death, at first light, Police Constable Hall returned to the place on the Gartrey Road where the body was found. He meticulously searched the area and came across a .455 caliber bullet just over 17 feet from where the body had been found. There was also a dead crow, and with the footprints of a bird around the place where Bella had been lying, he presumed that a bird had been feeding on the blood of poor Miss Bella Wright. When the doctor made a more thorough examination of the deceased, He discovered that there was a single-entry gunshot wound beneath her left eye, with an exit wound in the back of her skull underneath her hair. With this new information, an autopsy was ordered, the results of which confirmed that the deceased had been shot beneath the left eye from a distance believed to be between 6 or 7 feet. The body was later identified to be Miss Annie Bella Wright, who just half an hour before she was found dead in a narrow country lane had been talking to her uncle at his cottage. An inquest followed, which returned the cause of death as murder by person or persons unknown. The police now had to try and find the mysterious man with the green bicycle who had been seen with Bella on the night of her death. Mr. George Measures gave the police a description, and posters were placed around Leicestershire offering a reward for information. On the afternoon of Friday the 11th of July, Annie Bella Wright was buried. As the funeral procession made its way to the church in Stoughton, hundreds of people lined the streets to pay their respects. The chief constable issued an appeal in the local and national papers, asking that the man on the green bicycle come forward. As they did this, local constables were contacting the owners of green bicycles, but one by one, they eliminated them from their inquiries. Chief Inspector Albert Hawkins was sent from Scotland Yard to assist with the case. A bicycle repairman named Harry Cox told the police that on the 5th of July, he had repaired a bicycle, matching the description to the one described in the press. He also said that the man had told him that he was going for a ride in the country on that very day. Mr. Cox, however, had no record as to the name of this man. As much as the police requested information and the press reported the incident, detectives were unable to establish the identity of the mysterious gentleman with the green bicycle. 7 months later, on the 23rd of February 1920, a man named Enoch Whitehouse was guiding a horse-drawn barge along a canal close to the River Soar when the tow rope of the barge snagged on something. He brought the object to the surface. It was a green bicycle. Having read about the Bella Wright incident in the newspapers, he contacted the police, who then made the decision to dredge the canal. They then discovered other green bicycle parts, as well as an army-issue holster and a box of bullets, which were the same as the ones that had killed Bella Wright. When the frame of the bicycle was examined, the police found that the serial number and the BSA brand name had been filed off. However, a faint serial number was still visible on the inside of the front fork. With this new information, the detectives started to make inquiries with bicycle shops. They soon found out that the bicycle had been purchased in 1910 and had a strange braking mechanism on the back wheel. The shop owner told the police the gentleman who had purchased this particular bicycle was named Ronald Light. Ronald Light had been living with his mother in Leicester, but had recently started work as a mathematics teacher at the Dean Close School in Cheltenham. The police wasted no time in visiting him, and shortly after, he was arrested. Ronald was born on the 19th of October 1885 and was his parents' only living child. In 1902, when he was 17 years old, he had been expelled from the Oakham School for lifting a girl's dress over her head. He did, however, manage to go on to attend the University of Birmingham, where he graduated as a civil engineer and gained employment as a draftsman, a position from which he was later dismissed for lighting a fire in a cupboard and drawing indecent graffiti in a lavatory. He went on to work on a farm, but was again dismissed, this time for setting fire to a haystack. Following the outbreak of the First World War in 1914, Ronald was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Royal Engineers and sent to the Western Front. He later relinquished his commission, for reasons unknown, and returned to the ranks as a gunner in the Honourable Artillery Company. There were rumours, however, that he had no option but to relinquish his commission, as he had made unwanted advances towards a French postmistress. When his new regiment received orders to go to France, Ronald forged papers which instructed them not to go. When this was discovered, he served 4 months in prison. In September 1916, his father died. It was considered his death was an accident, but many who knew him believed that he had taken his own life due to the concerns he had for his son during World War I. In 1917, Ronald was again sent to France, but just a few months later he returned to England as he was suffering from severe shell shock. After some time in a military hospital, he moved back to his mother's house in Highfield Street in Leicester. Ronald matched the description of the gentleman seen riding with Bella on the 5th of July, about 35 to 40 years of age. with a broad full face and between 5'7" and 5'9" in height. When the police asked him how the bicycle had come to be in the canal, he replied that he did not know. He even said that he had never owned such a bicycle. He changed his story once police produced the evidence of where and when it had been purchased. He then said that he had sold it a few years earlier, but he could not remember the name of the gentleman who had bought it. The police found a witness who claimed to have seen a man throwing a bicycle into the canal. The bicycle repairman, Harry Cox, who had told the police that he had repaired a green bicycle for a gentleman on the 5th of July, and Bella's uncle, George Measures, were asked to attend an identity parade. They both picked out Ronald Wright. Ronald's mother employed a maid named Mary Elizabeth Webb. She informed detectives that on the 5th of July, Ronald had not returned home until around 10 p.m. She said that he told her that his bicycle had a mechanical problem, which meant that he had to push it home. She said that previously he would often go out on his bicycle, but had not used it since. She also said that he no longer had any of the clothing that he had worn that day. Eventually, Ronald told the police that he had in fact met Bella and accompanied her on her journey. He said that when they passed the village of Galtby, he left her at the crossroads as he went right and she went left. He added that when he read in the papers that the young lady was dead, he thought that he would be a suspect, but as there was nothing he could tell the police and he did not want to upset his mother, he decided not to come forward. With the mounting evidence against him, Mr. Ronald Wright was charged with the murder of Miss Annie Bella Wright. Ronald Wright's trial began on the 8th of June 1920, and he pleaded not guilty. He was defended by Sir Edward Marshall Hall, a barrister who had a formidable reputation and known as the Great Defender. He had successfully defended many people accused of murder. Mr. George Measures, his daughter and son-in-law, all confirmed that the defendant was the gentleman they had seen with Bella on the 5th of July. Mrs. Wright's maid, Elizabeth Webb, gave evidence, as did other witnesses who had seen Ronald Wright that day. Two girls, 14-year-old Muriel Nunny and 12-year-old Valeria Caven, informed the court that earlier on the 5th of July, they had been riding their bicycles close to the area where Bella Wright's body was found, when a man on a green bicycle started paying them unwanted attention. They confirmed that the man was Ronald Wright. Ronald testified in his own defence and conveyed himself well. He said that when he was arrested, he'd initially lied to the police, but reiterated that he and Bella had parted company shortly after leaving her uncle's cottage. He admitted that the bicycle, holster and bullets that had been removed from the canal had belonged to him, and that he decided to rid himself of the items as he panicked after reading of the death of Miss Wright. He also said that when in the army, he had been issued with a Webley Scott service revolver. However, he claimed that when posted overseas, he had taken the revolver with him, but not the holster, and that he had left the revolver in a casualty clearing station in France in 1918. He added that although he wanted to ride back with Bella, she had been a long time with her uncle, so instead he started to make his way home. Unfortunately, his tyre got a puncture, which he had to fix by the roadside. Just as he finished, he saw Bella appear from the cottage, so decided to see if they could ride back together. He was cross-examined by the prosecution for 5 hours, but answered all the questions well, and at no point did he contradict himself. Sir Marshall Hall stressed to the jury that his client had no motive to kill Miss Wright. He had not known her before the 5th of July, and she had not been robbed or assaulted. He also questioned the expert witness on ballistics as to whether Bella had been shot from close range. He suggested that she could have been shot by a stray bullet, fired by a farmer shooting birds or rabbits. He told the jury that a shot from close range would have caused far more damage to Bella's face. The reasons which had led Ronald Wright to being expelled from school, and his strange behaviours which had resulted in him being dismissed from work and losing his commission in the army, were not brought up in court. The trial ended on the 11th of June, and the jury deliberated for 3 hours before returning to find the defendant, Ronald Wright, not guilty. Following his acquittal, Ronald returned to his mother's house, where he maintained a somewhat solitary lifestyle. But in 1928, he moved to Laysdown-on-Sea on the Isle of Sheppey in Kent, where in 1934 he married a widow named Lillian Lester. He died on the 15th of May 1975 at the age of 89. For many years, the green bicycle hung on the wall of the Evington cycle shop, but it's no longer there, and its current whereabouts are unknown. People still question as to whether Ronald Wright was responsible for the death of Bella Wright. He had the best defence lawyer available at the time, and Ronald's good education meant that he was very good when speaking in court. 3 days after his acquittal, Ronald went to the police station, where it is alleged that he told Leicestershire police officer Levi Bowley the truth of what happened on the 5th of July 1919. This was typed up in a statement, and then it seems forgotten about until quite recently. It reads, "I did shoot the girl, but it was completely accidental. We were riding quietly along. I had my revolver in my raincoat pocket, and we dismounted for her to look at it. I had no idea there was a loaded cartridge in it. Her hand was out to take it. When it went off, she fell and never stirred. I got on my bicycle and rode away." As the case had ended, the statement was locked in a safe and was only discovered in recent years. Its authenticity, however, has been questioned. Hello everyone, and thank you so much for listening. As usual, please leave any feedback or comments you may have, and I hope to see you all again in the next Brief Case